if you were given that much money and you haven't developed the skills and the mindset and all those other things to be a good steward of the money, number one, and how to do it all, odds are so Donald Trump I think is kind of an anomaly because what Donald Trump did, no matter anybody says, is fucking amazing, bro. He took $1 million and turned it into a couple billion.
Yeah.
Right, but that generally you don't see that.
No,
when
fuck it off.
Yeah, they fuck it off.
And $1 million really isn't a lot of money, so it's easy to fuck it off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We could be $1 million. Oh, he was giving $1 million. No, $1 million to do the shit that he's done.
Yeah, I think he was giving $10 million. Even if you're giving $10 million,
still, do that, bro, it's easy to fuck that off.
It's easy to fuck that off. So that's a completely different thing to where I think the number one, and we were talking about this at the mastermind, bro. How can you raise your kids in such a way to where they can be a good steward of the money, know how to handle money, and then okay, now this person's inheriting something that's worth $100 million, $500 million. You have a family office, but now it's your job to fucking take this thing and take it to the next level. Because most businesses fail on the third generation. So the second one will be fine. Mm-hmm. But even with my dad's company, I don't want it, and my cousin doesn't want it. That's the third. Mm-hmm. He got it from my grandpa. Right? With my mom's company, my mom sold hers.
Yeah.
Right, but you can see this.
But they may not want it, but they can utilize the compensation from them and put that into maybe something else. They don't have to love what you do, right? They just got to know how to take it. And if they do decide to sell it, they need to know where to reinvest that money.
And we talked about this earlier, but I'm concerned that my kids won't have enough struggle.
Mm. But you don't work for them to have struggle,
right? Bro,
the
it's
idea
a crazy
isn't
dynamic.
It is a crazy dynamic.
It's a crazy dynamic.
Their struggle is going to be completely different than what our struggle is. They'll have their own struggle,
but it's a bitch struggle.
Their struggle shouldn't be what our struggle is.
But that's what I'm bro, you had a bitch struggle. Because I bury kids like you every day.
You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying?
Their struggle would be, fuck, how do I get from 10 million to fucking 100 million? Or how do I get from 100 million to $1 billion? Their struggle shouldn't be, how do I take this shit from the ground and make $1 million? That shouldn't be their fucking struggle. Because ideally, they should be going into something with a whole lot more capital and understanding that they're in bigger and better rooms and the challenge is completely different.
So, number one, our kids should be inheriting more than that. And I'm saying this going into things. If I'm going against a daddy's boy who has not developed the skills, who's not had to sleep on floors, you know what I'm saying? Who has not done any of that, I'll fucking bury you. I don't want that to be my kid.
Yeah.
Because I'll eat him alive.
So all your energy is going towards burying the dude with 100 million?
I mean, the goal is 500 million, yes.
I mean, but he started off at 100. He don't give a fuck about you trying to get to
your first one. Okay, but then you're there. And so we can compare it to when we use the example of the immigrants. Mm-hmm. So many of the billionaires in America are immigrants. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of them are daddy's boys.
Yeah.
The people who truly build something or successful, they can build something that's long lasting. It's because they've developed the skills, they've gone through the struggle, they've gone up and down 4 times and still bounce back. Mm-hmm. How can we raise the kids to have that type of, to where we're talking about the grit, the do it all, all this shit to where yes, you are inheriting this and I have 100% faith in you to fucking Donald Trump this shit.
I don't know.
If they want to go in down that avenue.
I had a conversation with someone and we was talking about just development in Fresno and just stuff like that. And it came in and they talked about kind of Armenians and how has Armenians been able to sustain.
And they're really good at it out here.
Right? They're really good. I mean, they're sitting there in the rooms. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. It's not necessarily how much money you've made, but it's positioning your people to be in decision-making rooms. Because at that point, it don't matter how much of a fucking idiot your son can necessarily be. Because you know what? I knew your pops. Your pops was a good person. I know he can front this. You know what I mean? And they can put you in a position to where you can only grow. You can't fail in that type of environment if you have your people.
I still want them to fail though too.
Huh?
You still want them to fail.
Yeah, I get it. But there's something to be said of having your people in rooms that can help you elevate.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole lot harder trying to get into that room compared to being there and then new generations coming up and oh yeah, that's my granddad up there, or that's my dad folks. He run the city. Yeah, we can get this push. No big deal.
Right. So
Dot the I's and cross the T's and just make sure that everything look good.
one of the examples that I have seen that is the richest guy here in Fresno, word for word, and so their entire family runs the company. It's like you don't see it very often. Like the entire family, they're Armenian, runs everything. Like it's like 4 different verticals, everything else, everything's vertically integrated. Different family members run like the heads of these things, and then the great grandson is amazing at one thing, and he could go and do that one thing for a lot of money. And then the grandpa's like, he'd be a fucking dumbass if he went and did that. He'd be taking a pay cut from the family business. And like this kid could go, and like this kid would make millions.
Yeah.
And to where that is the other thing, to where you can present them such a good opportunity, like, hey, just keep your fucking nose clean. This opportunity is there. Throw down.
Yeah.
I don't. But it's one thing that I would that leaves me up at night. Like, am I doing a good enough job as a parent to like groom my kid to have all the tools that they need to be and whatever they do, right? Because like that grit and bounce back and failure and everything else, like it doesn't just have to apply to business, bro. Like, because like all those traits are really good traits to have in life, period. And generally the people who chose to do it in business, if Martin Luther King or Gandhi would have chose to fucking channel their shit, they would have been just as successful, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Right. So like,
But
having
there
the
wasn't.
traits.
But there wasn't a lane for that. You know what I mean? So like they were. I mean, you're talking about trailblazers. So that when people who come behind them, you know what, Martin Luther King or Gandhi did it this way. I ain't doing it that way. I'm going this way with the same type of principles.
I'm
get
talking
a whole
about
lot further.
them as people would have been successful no matter what they did.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying, like, it doesn't matter if they're in a business or whatever.
In teaching, we always say, you know, one of my mentors when I was teaching and stuff like that, still just one of my life mentors and stuff like that, he always said that, you know, as teachers, you know, you plant seeds to trees whom shade you may never see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's true when you're talking about your children. All you can do is plant seeds and plant good morals and values into your children. You may never see the shade of them trees, but understand that if it's good from the soil, then it'll be good eventually coming out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's ultimately when you talk about the fear. You can't predict how your children are going to be, but you know
It's scary. I mean, you
know,
can't operate
you
in
plant
fear
the
either.
right seed. You plant the right seed, then that's just going to be prosperous. I think at the end of the day.
Hell yeah.